Hi everyone, this is Ken Florentino with an August update of Dominari. If you're not familiar with Dominari, recommend that you go check out some of the earlier videos, some of the intro videos that talk about Dominari and all of the mechanics a little bit more in depth. The assumption for this video is that you're pretty familiar with the concepts, or at least you're willing to follow along even if you're not. Just a quick headline on Dominari. Dominari is a game of galactic conquest. You start out on one side of the galaxy with a handful of fighters, while your opponent does the same on another corner of the galaxy, and then battle ensues as you both try to take over the entire universe. During the course of taking over the universe, you use a variety of mechanics at your disposal to meet your goals. Today I'm going to talk about two things. First, I want to share an update on the new engine, and then second, we'll talk about some of the new mechanics and gameplay changes that have occurred. So starting with the new engine, you're looking at a screenshot, it's probably a few weeks old at this point, that really highlights what we've been doing from a graphical standpoint. So really got a theme nailed down, and Curtis has been working tirelessly on all of the graphics. So you can see all of the mechanics here, all the various orbitals, there's the EPIM missile, turrets, Doomsday, so all the familiar mechanics are there. The levels being represented by the LEDs, so you know instantly what level mechanic you have. Your resources. These fighters may or may not stay here. We're trying to decide if that's even valuable information. And then your button for upgrades will be here in the center. We'll have some additional display information down here so that when you select something, for example an orbital, it will tell you to go select a target planet. Up here, a lot of the graphics will change. Some of these I did myself, which are pretty terrible, including the orbitals. So Curtis will come back and fix those up, as well as look at some opportunities to clean up or probably redo the planets entirely, since I put a lot of those together. Now, the other thing that's important with the graphics engine is that it gets 60 frames per second at a full 1920 by 1080, even on a crappy laptop. So what's great about this is we'll be able to get this out to folks to start doing some testing, get some of the folks that are really eager to start playing it and start getting the feedback on the game, which also help us as we work through balance changes. So more to come on this. Currently single player, multiplayer, all the mechanics work, just need to get the upgrades working and some at least basic rudimentary rendering for things like missile and some other special effects. But for the most part, should only be a few weeks out from being to play this completely. For the new game, or for the new mechanics rather, let's go over to the actual game itself. We're going to do level 3 so that the computer doesn't destroy me while I'm trying to talk. And the first thing you'll notice is that the home planet has changed. Instead of a utopia, you now have this blue home planet that has 5 turrets on it and 75 fighters. So we're experimenting with a little bit more fighters to start with to try and make the opening a little bit faster. The home planet also produces fighters faster than a utopia, and there's only one on each side. You can't upgrade or downgrade it or obtain any other planets like it. Let's see here. So we're going to go ahead and turn on some cheats, which allows me to have full resources.
ODS online.
So one thing that is new is GPA and LOCF both have smaller radiuses to start.
Online.
And two reasons for this. One, for the LOCF, we found that its radius of influence, meaning how many additional resources it was producing, because it gets a 10%, 20%, and 30% respectively on each of the levels. It was just too wide of an area for the amount of production upgrade. So this helps tone down the economy a little bit. If we upgrade him,
mechanic upgrade,
you'll see he's still smaller probably, or about the same size as level 1 before, and he will never be as big as he used to be. So that's one big change. Similarly, the GPA is also smaller. We found that, particularly in a map that had lots of planets in the center, was subject to GPA spam. So you'd put 2 or 3 of these guys out here and expand them so big that you could cut off the opponent very early game, and it made the game pretty much unplayable. So we're experimenting with that. We still may consider other things like making it harder to obtain GPA, just because that early game being able to kill 10, 20, or 30 fighters is pretty brutal. Now the exciting new mechanic that we have is, first of all, we have a new orbital called QDL, or the Quantum Development Labs. And in order to get that, you have to have the first 3 orbitals. And then what we've also done is taken the big bad boys, Construct Starbase, Doomsday, FTL Warp, and placed them under the QDL tree. But there is a new mechanic called the Striker Missile, and we're going to take a look at that as well. So QDL has a very small
ODS
orbital.
online.
Right now, it has only one effect, and it will probably remain that way, which is it will cloak ships that are going to an enemy planet. And so the enemy will not see that fighter until it gets halfway. So literally they will get surprised and suddenly a ship appears halfway. Still early in trying to figure out if it's fun gameplay or if it needs to be tweaked in terms of its distance, but that's one effect. And then the second one is that it unlocks, of course, everything here. So Striker missiles. We've had a problem for a long time with missiles. There's been no counter to missiles. So if somebody launched a missile at your planet, it would destroy the orbital and would take out 50% of the fighters. And we decided it was just too powerful. You could end games pretty quickly with it. And again, there was no counter. So let's take advantage of this Striker missile right now.
Polarity inverted.
So Striker missile fires off a little missile.
Boosting defenses.
That does several things. One, a Striker missile does damage 10% of the fighters on a nearby planet. Let's do this so we can see.
ODS online.
Secondly, it will take out 15, 20, or 25 fighters, I believe. Maybe it's 10, 15, or 20 of any ships that are in transit. So one thing you can do, for example, is use inverse to slow down a ship and then fire multiple. If you have a high enough level upgrade, it looks like I'll get 2. And so you can do some significant damage to fighters before they get to your base. Striker missiles will also take out the EPIM missiles, and they will also take out other strikers. So here we'll do this again. Requires a little bit of timing and precision on your part.
Polarity inverted.
And currently it's using the same sounds as the inverse polarity if you are confused.
Recruited.
We have not updated the sound for it yet.
Inversing polarity.
So let's go ahead.
Mechanic
I'm going to
upgraded.
upgrade it to its final level. Inverse polarity to slow it down. Try and get a couple more shots on it. And so there you go. So the Twin Striker missile, so far what we're seeing, we made the EPIM and Striker missile same speeds, same cooldowns. And what we're finding is that sometimes it can be hard and you'll miss the missile as it's coming in. Sometimes you'll catch it. So we'll continue to experiment with it. We kind of wanted a missile command, twitch kind of reflex for those types of things. And so far it's a lot of fun. So we'll continue to tweak and play with it. One other thing that we've added is the concept of cooldown. So before we had a duration for things like a Doomsday, for example, and it would last forever, 20 seconds. What we've changed is now it lasts for 5 seconds.
Doomsday device online.
And you're going to see this turn to blue right after, which is its cooldown period. So it's no longer active, but you still can't use it for the cooldown. So cooldowns are now part of the mechanics, and we'll use those as a lever to adjust game balance as needed. So that is pretty much all of the updates. I'll probably do another gameplay video here shortly, so keep an eye out for that. If you have any questions, of course, jump into Reddit, and happy to take ideas, suggestions, or any questions that you have about the game. Thanks.